Hey, how you doing? I hope you're well. I'm Deanna and welcome to my channel. Today's going to be the last of my end of 2024 content. I do still have my December wrap up, which should be coming on Sunday. Pray for me that I can manage to organize my time to get that all filmed, edited, and uploaded. But today I wanted to share with you my best books of 2024. These are in no particular order because I love them all and you can't make me choose. No, you can't make me choose. And we have 16 of my top favorite books of the year. A few of them are series because I either binge read them or they are just an amazing sum of their parts, and to have one book without the others felt odd. So yeah, so there are some of them and they are quite heavy. So if you've watched a few of my videos, you're probably not going to be very surprised about what makes my top list. So for fun, if you'd like to guess a few in the comments, that would be nice. Otherwise, we will try and keep this as rapid fire as possible. Just know that I love these. So for a little bit of background, I read 170 books in 2024 and I gave 42 of those books 5 stars. Maybe I'll talk about this in another video, but my rating is enjoyment based. Yes, I think if something has beautiful writing, well-developed characters, well-developed plot, that kind of adds to my enjoyment, but definitely the enjoyment factor is like my biggest thing. I do rate just based on vibes. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. These books are just the ones that literally had me in a chokehold all year. When I think of 2024, these are the books I think of. Is that enough of a disclaimer? I think so. First off, we will go with one of the first series I completed in 2024, and it is Death by Kay, Lorraine and Meg. And I love this series. You know this. I will not shut up about the Meg games. It is a bonkers, unhinged, why choose paranormal romance, and this is the 3rd book in the universe, and in this we're following a romance author and death cult survivor, Dahlia, as she is sent to the Scottish Highlands on a wellness retreat after she has an epic, very public mental breakdown at the premiere of her movie adaptation. However, once she gets there, she realizes that less a wellness retreat and more a asylum for the supernaturally insane, and she finds out that she may not be as human as she thinks she is, and there she ends up tumbling into a therapy group with a cursed Novus Guardian named Thor, a Scottish dragon shifter and tattoo artist, the wonderful, charming pirate who, yes, is very much convinced that he is the Captain Hook of Captain Hook infamy, and Kane, who is a southern gentleman who has entered the Institute moments after Dahlia but cannot remember a single thing about who he is or why he's here, but he does have a very cute dog named Arsehole, and I just love this. It is a wild ride. I think of the free series, this so far is my favorite. I loved the Scottish setting, I loved the asylum setting. Death was very interesting in the game that she played, and we had a lot of twists. You definitely need to start with war, but this one is just so much fun, and do not sleep on this series. It is incredible. I love the audiobooks. I don't think I've mentioned that in a while, but this is told in a full cast narration, so every character has their own voice actor, even if it's not their perspective. Like if that character's saying dialogue, their voice actor is acting it, and it is just pure perfection. We have scenes in the audio where it is their recordings of therapy sessions, so the audio is kind of distorted as if it's being played back through like an analog tape machine, and it's just so fantastic. Audio is definitely the way to go with this series. These books came out like a month after each other, and when I got a new ALC for this one, I did go back and listen to the first books because I had to treat myself. This series is incredible. Another series that completely captured me was Harley LaRue's The Losers Duet. This is fantastic. It is a dark why choose romance, and I think Harley LaRue has just created these most incredible characters. I feel like I know these people. They are messy, they are complicated. It's just a beautiful exploration of what a supportive poly queer relationships should be, and it does have a dark twist, but I feel like that kind of dies down, or at least I forget about it very quick into it, especially when the second part starts, and I really could have done with more time with these characters. So this follows Jess, who was the quote-unquote mean girl at high school, and the fact she did some very shitty things to the losers in the town, but she figured she's leaving off to college, she's going to change her life, she won't have to, you know, think about this. However, she ends up back in her hometown after a job falls through, and she's kind of stuck. She is a little embarrassed, she doesn't want to necessarily be back here, but she has nowhere else to go except to head home, and unfortunately ends up falling back in with the old crowd that she ran in with high school, which she knows it doesn't really fit who she is or who she wants to be, but just kind of goes with the flow. They end up trashing the losers of the town's mechanic shop, and she gets caught, and the boys decide that they are going to call in some sexy favors for her to pay off the damage. And yeah, I cannot sing this duology's praise enough. Honestly, I am dying to reread it, and I'm doing a reread challenge in 2025, so don't be surprised if you hear me yap about these ones at another time. Maybe we'll stick with the Why Choose and we'll go with another unhinged paranormal romance, and that is the Her Vicious Beast series by E.P. Barley. This series is a wild ride. Like, I thought the Mate Games was unhinged, but this one is next level. In this, we are following a girl named Aurelia. She is the banished daughter of the Serpent King. So we have a complete world where shifters are the norm. It's just part of everyday life, and they kind of fall into different orders. And we have everything. We've got typical wolves and bears and lions, but we've got snakes, there's sharks, there was mention of a Komodo dragon, there's a platypus shifter, like anything you can think of, it's a shifter. However, Aurelia, when she comes of age, is expected that she will present as a snake and take over her father's kingdom. However, she ends up not doing that and ends up embarrassing him. To make matters worse, they go to the Oracle, and it's foretold that her mates are from 5 different orders, which is a dead giveaway that her animalia is not who it's meant to be. And he decides to kind of banish her, but she is an impeccable healer. On top of being this like influential leader for the minority animalias, he is also a big mafia guy, and so she is called in to help heal any of his soldiers, and she is working her way out. She has got an exit strategy, she's got her exit plan, she is almost there, she's out the door. However, he ropes her into one last job where she ends up finding 3 of her deadly fated mates who she's been threatened to never make contact with, and in a very quick series of events she ends up married, framed for murdering said fiance, charged with arson, and on the run with her deadly mates capturing her. And it is just so phenomenal. Aurelia and the mates end up in this reform prison school where it's ruled with an iron fist by the deputy headmaster, who has been known to, you know, cure feral beasts. And I completely loved it. It is wild, it is bonkers. The twists and turns just kept me guessing. I'm besotted with these characters, borderline obsessed with them, and the way that her Psycho Beast ended, I need to know more. Just know that if you also love bonkers paranormal romance, this series also needs to go on your TBR. Less bonkers, but another paranormal romance which has completely captivated me is A Wolf in the Garden by Allegra Hall. I am just in awe of this world that she's created. It is a small town, second chance paranormal romance. It's set in New Zealand. It is wonderful. I am so excited we're getting more from this world, because Allegra has just created this endlessly fascinating world where years prior the veil between the supernatural and the humans has lifted. So that means we've got everything, you know, gargoyles, vampires, wolves, shifters, orcs, who were hidden by this glamour has now been exposed. And that's pretty scary for those people who knew who they were, but it's particularly scary for people like Ellie, who had no idea that they had part supernatural in their heritage. And this is a look at Ellie feeling comfortable with her supernatural side and figuring out what that is, and also a devastatingly emotional second chance romance with her childhood sweetheart Van, who is a werewolf and a wolf shifter. And This book is big. It's like, what, 500 pages, and I just flew through it. It is so much fun. And then we have probably one that I haven't spoken about a lot, as you can see them up there. The Side Changeling series is a series that owns my heart and soul, and it is always an anticipated release that I look forward to. And Primal Mirror, which was the 2024 release in this series, and book 2022, I want to say, was no exception. We are following Remy, who is a leopard alpha we met way early on in the series, and we are getting to see him as the alpha to a budding pack and struggling with his need to keep the people he loves close, but knowing he can't do that because they're leopard shifters, they're predators, and they need the space to roam, explore, make mistakes, but need that security to know that he's always there to support them. And then we have Auden Scott, and she is a Psy who is related to the Scotts, and if you've read the series, it's a really interesting wrap up to that villain arc, and she is quite fearful. She is having moments where she does not remember what's happened. It feels like someone else is taking over her body, and she can wake up and it'll be days later and she has no memory of what happened, but she's seen footage that she's conducted multi-million-dollar business deals, and she's waking up with bruises, and so she ends up trying to sift through her father's items and finds a property which borders on Remy's pack and is trying to seek answers, and it is their romance, and they are just the perfect balance. She has never really had a loving and supportive family, and is like the perfect balance for Remy to, you know, let out those overprotective feelings, and he provides her with the family and security that she's never had. And it was chef's kiss, amazing. Another fantastic addition in the series. If you're wanting to commit to a very long paranormal romance series, trust me, it's worth every minute. Please pick it up. Let me know if you're interested. I would always be down to do a reread, and I'd love to buddy read it with you. Next we have The Heat of Us by Ileana Lee. This is the third book in her Bond's Dissolution series, and in this we're following Hazel, who is a sex worker, and her build-a-pack situation with Ben, who is her brother's best friend, Ryder, who is a man who she collaborates with through her Omega fans sex content, and a nursing student named Alexi. And this book was just incredible. The way that Ileana Lee does a build-a-pack situation is so phenomenally done. We have Hazel, who comes across as this very put together, very bright, very confident Omega, and we find out what happened in her past and why she joined the program, which is heartbreaking, and to see what she does in punishment of what happened and things that were outside of her control was pretty harrowing to see. And then we have these guys who are completely drawn to her, and that if it wasn't for Hazel, they never really would have interacted, and it's just fantastic to see them discover their own dynamic and friendship between them and form a pack. And the banter in here is fantastic, the spice is incredible, and I am in complete awe of this pack. They might be one of my favorite packs. If you love an Omegaverse, don't sleep on this series. Also, should note that it is set in Melbourne. Big tick for me. I live in Melbourne. And the diversity that Ileana puts into these books is incredible. Hazel is an Asian female main character. Ben is also an Asian main character. Alexi, I believe, is Eastern European, and I can't remember if Remy's nationality is mentioned, but I love that exploration of multiculturalism as well. Another book that I reread this year and I am completely besotted with is Priceless by Devon Sinclair. This is her second book in the Clarity Coast Omegaverse, and this book broke me. It healed me and broke me, and I think just seeing Ocean as a plus size character and her thoughts and feelings about her weight, and a lot of its self-stigmatization that pushed on her from media, from her family, about these misconceptions about being a plus size person, that she's lazy, she eats too much and all that stuff. And it was just a beautiful exploration. She is not necessarily going to be your plus size female character who is like, fuck you all, I'm in love with my body, I love my curves. She has moments where she does embrace her body, but then she has these other moments where she's just not completely comfortable or happy with it, and that's largely due to people's expectations that they've put on her. So we have Ocean, and she ends up in a marriage of convenience with three billionaire alphas, the DuPont pack, and basically they own a lot of businesses, and their board of directors have said, hey, you're about to buy a kids clothing brand, but you also own like a sex shop and lingerie company. Like, it's not really good for your image that the paparazzi keep flashing images of you dancing with random women from holidays years ago. Like, if you're gonna buy this kids clothing brand, maybe you need to get married to clean up your image. They are about to pretty much tell the board to go screw themselves, and that it doesn't really matter when they go to a charity gala and they see Ocean. They are completely captivated with her from across the room. It's very romantic, and they're like, fine, okay, we'll figure out who this is. If we're going to get married, let's marry her. And as they get closer to her, she is trying to get rid of a handsy dance partner. Cam, who stops her, one of the alphas, notices that she is their scent matched mate. Now, in this world, amigas aren't aware of that connection until they're heats, so the boys come up with a plan that they are going to enter in a marriage convenience, and they'll use the year of their contracted marriage, woo Ocean and let her believe that they are interested in her and they love her for who she is, and she is worthy of all that love. And Ocean agrees to it because her parents died when she was younger, and her aunt and uncle have her inheritance in a trust. For whatever reason, her parents have decided that she can only get the trust signed over when she's like 30, 35. So she basically wants to tell her uncle to go screw himself, that she will not accept this marriage because there's nothing in it for her, when he agrees to release her inheritance a year early. And yeah, I completely adored this. There was a point in the year where I was getting very stressed in my new job and I just wanted a comfort. Thought I was going to flick through a couple of scenes. I'm rereading this in 2 days. Yes, we've got excellent spice, but the wooing and the courting, it's all very romantic. Love Ocean's journey on accepting herself and believing that she is worthy of love. It heals me. It heals my broken heart every time I read it. Okay, 2024 really was the year of fantasy romance for me, so let's dive into my fantasy romance. I, like everyone else in the world, read Quicksilver by Callie Hart and completely devoured it. This is just phenomenal. It's chunky and there is a lot of slow setup at the start, but it is necessary and it is worth it. I think she paced it perfectly as we're getting introduced into the world, but it is done in a beautiful way that isn't info dumpy, so I appreciated the time to get to know Sierras. I will listen to the audiobook and discover her name, but we are following Sierra Fane, who is living in this world which is essentially a desert. She is requested to this particular quarter, which is essentially the slums of this kingdom, and they have water rations. So for a failed rebellion generations earlier, so Sierra is just trying to live her best life and keep her and her younger brother safe. She ends up escaping their quadrant, which has been like walled in essentially, and steals a gauntlet from a guard and ends up being captured and sent to the queen for torture, just because, you know, it's really going to be a threat to the others to like learn your place. However, mid-torture / death sentence, she ends up releasing a sword that's been stuck in the palace grounds for God knows how long, and within that opens a portal and out jumps this man, a Fae warrior named Kingfisher, and he realizes that she has the ability to manipulate metals and drags her back to his winter kingdom in hopes that she will help free his people from the endless wars that they're in. And it is just fantastic. I love Sierra so much. She is so determined to get back to her brother and will do everything she can, including stumbling into Fae bargains, which she really shouldn't be signing up to. One of my favorite things about this, and it's very side and very relevant, she has like this little pet fox which she adopts. So cute. At one stage, Kingfisher is basically like, what the fuck? What is this? And she's like, nope, we need to bring him with us. And he kind of was like, that seems unnecessary, but sure, let's go with it. And the group around Kingfisher, his found family, the characters are so hilarious. Yeah, we have this alchemy magic throughout. The book ended. If you've read the book, please let me know and we can just gush over that last line. Like, why did it do that? And then when we find out Kingfisher's backstory, it really adds to making him like the broody guy. It's fantastic. I've heard clips of the audiobook. I'm gonna have to re-listen to that when the second book is announced. I know it's very hyped, but trust me, it's worth it. We have fantastic world building, a very interesting fantasy romance plot with a kick-ass, fully developed, slow burn enemies to lovers romance. Like, I don't really need to say anything else, just pick this one up. Another very popular fantasy romance, which again, very well worth the hype, is When the Moon Called by Sarah A. Parker. Look at the foil on that cover. This is the stunning Fairy Loot edition. Speaking of worlds that are just fantastic, the way that Sarah A. Parker just kind of throws you into this world and has it being so fully realized in the fact that they have their own slang and their creatures and their customs are kind of built into their slang. Like, I freaking loved it. I could just listen to this and read this all day. We are following Reeve, who is an assassin for the rebellion, and her main job is basically to complete her orders on time and don't get caught, which is going swimmingly well until this bounty hunter shows up and is looking for the rebellion, and her in particular, and ends up killing her friend and her housemate. And she goes full berserker, blood rage, female rage, we love it, and ends up getting captured, not surprising, and sent to a high prison dungeon where she will be put to trial in front of a guild of nobles for her crimes. The magic in this world is fantastic. We have this whole setup with the gods, and you are gifted magic if you're able to hear the god's song. So good, I love that. And then we have Han Vigor. It's been a while since I've listened to it, so I probably said that wrong. He is a great dragon rider, and he is doing what he can to get over the grief of losing his loved one, and he is trying to find a purpose when he stumbles into a high security prison, drawn there for some unexplicit reason, and ends up bumping into our wonderful assassin Reeve. And throughout we have these diary entries from a girl named Aline Navan. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this very well. That is where we get the dragons and a lot of the kind of history to this world. Reeve and Han Vigor end up kind of thrust together as they're trying to seek truth. She's trying to, you know, get revenge on the bounty hunter, and he's trying to figure out how to get his own revenge for those he loves, and it is amazing. We had a lot of reveals. Very excited to get to the next book, see what's going to happen with these characters, and absolutely love this. Devoured it. Next, for a bit of a lighter romance, I am going with the Fae Flings and Corset String series by Tessania Odette. I completely loved both of them. Rivalry of Hearts has been in my heart for longer because it came out earlier, but I think My Feral Romance might have just beat it. I'm gonna have to reread this series, but we are following this fantasy world which definitely gives like Bridgerton Regency vibes with Fae, and it is set on this island of Ferrover. And in this one in particular, we have Edwina and William, who are rival writers who have been put on this book tour by the big publishing house in Ferrover. And we've got our tortured poet and our romance writer, and the publisher basically says, hey, whoever sells the most amount of books on tour is going to get a 3-book publishing deal. Now, it's very exciting for Edwina. She is a human. She has been struggling her entire career back in the human lands because no one takes her seriously. They think it's just smut and drivel, where finally she's got this place where people love and celebrate her work. So she is fighting tooth and nail to get there. However, for Edwina, not getting off to the best start, as she has a series of unfortunate events which delays her start to the tour. So William is already given a head start. So they make up a drunken bet that whoever can pick up and seduce the most people on tour is going to be the real winner of the bet. Completely devoured this one. And then we have My Feral Romance, which follows the 2 publishing assistants who go on tour, and we have Monty and Daphne, and these 2 stole my heart in the first book, but I'm so glad we got their own book. In this one we have Daphne, who in the first book she completely lived in her silly form. She had a very disastrous debut years earlier and was struggling with the nuances of high society and the unspoken meanings behind words, so she kind of had a bit of a meltdown. So she feels safe in her silly form. However, since meeting Edwina and the events of the first book, she has decided to embrace her silly form and embrace her dream job of becoming an illustrator. She's been given the contract by a publishing house to illustrate the covers for the next 4 books that Edwina is going to put out. However, she has had a drunken engagement with a fae from her hometown, and if she doesn't land the job and or have significant ties to the city, she will be forced to go home, where she'll have to live in her CLE Pine Marin form. And then we have Monty, who is our devilish playboy, and he has been fired from the publishing house after some of the incidents that he was responsible for in the first book get leaked to the media, which isn't a really good look for the publishing house, but ends up becoming an advice columnist for a local newspaper, and he needs to get his old publishing house to publish a collection of his columns so he can pay off a debt that he owns. When he was disowned by his father, he took up a very large debt so he could continue to live in his lavish lifestyle. However, because he had zero skills and zero collateral, the only person who would lend to him is a dodgy money lender who lends in secrets, and if he doesn't pay the bill back, his whole family could be destroyed. So hence he needs the advance so he can pay off the dodgy guys and get a loan with a regular normal bank. However, the publishing house doesn't just want to reprint his collections without something new, and they want him to include a case study to show that his lessons and advice that he's given through the columns do work on helping someone find a mate. And then we have Daphne, who again doing really well with her covers when it comes to women because she uses her own body as a model, however not doing too great on the men. So the pair of them get together and come up with a plan. Daphne will be the case study for Monty's book and find herself a husband if Monty is the model to her romance covers. And the way I just swooned, this honestly has to be the most romantic book I've read in the longest time. Daphne, she's very practical and she's very pragmatic, and she's just like, I need a husband to continue living here, and I need one who looks all right so I can use him as a model for my covers. She's like, that's it, that's it, that's all the requirements I need. But Monty's kind of like, really babe, like, do you have anything else you want? Like, do you want to like him? And she's like, nope, let's just get married. And then throughout Monty taking her on these dates and giving her these lessons, she realizes that, wait a second, he knows that I am uncomfortable in crowds, so does what he can to help me calm down and feel safe, and remembers what my favorite drink is, even though I mentioned it in passing a year ago, and knows what my favorite food is. And she's realizing that all these little thoughtful actions, of these little things that he remembered, means a lot to her. And then we have Monty, who underneath his playboy facade is so blindsided, believing his father's gaslighting. Thankfully, Daphne is strong enough to basically tell him he is not responsible for his father's mistakes, and if his father's mistakes get out, that is on his father. Monty is not responsible at all. And yeah, I just love them. We had the grand gestures of all grand gestures on both sides, and I really need to reread this. If you like the sounds of a kind of cozy, low stakes fantasy romance that has that more Bridgerton, Regency, Austen vibe, but with fae, highly recommend this series. Then The Castles of Nevers and Nightmares by Lana Pericek, and this is the first book in her Fae Guardians spin-off series. And if you like the Fae Guardians, which kind of gives this like post-apocalyptic world, very Witcher themed, this is like a portal fantasy within a fantasy world. So we have Willow, who is grown up, she's lost her magic after the events of the Season of the Elf, and fully blames the slewer, who did think that she was their well-blessed mate, then blame her for stuff, and she ends up losing her aunt and losing her powers, so she fully blames them. So she's decided that after wallowing in her self-pity for a very long time and losing one of her best friends, she is going to go hunting and get her revenge, and ends up portaling into Avalona, where the slewer now reside. It has this traditional folkloric take to the world, which I just devoured, and she is there to get her revenge. She ends up stumbling into a competition. Queen Tatiana, who is in charge of the Court of Dreams, is currently in a slumber to keep the nightmares away from the citizens. Every year there is a challenge where humans can enter, and whoever wins is granted their wish. So Willow thinks, hey, why not? If I get my wish, I can kill the slewer. And then she bumps into them and realizes that something's not right. They don't really remember who she is, except for one, Fox, who is doing everything he can to make sure his brothers are kept alive, and then also at the same time trying to woo Willow. We have the trials taking place, there are dragons, fae bargains, a Waichus. It's just everything I want, and I cannot wait for more in this world. We'll say Lana does a really great job at giving you background context into Willow and the Slaw, so if you don't want to start with the Fae Guardian series, you could dive straight in with this one. Next up is a historical fantasy romance, and that is Peaches and Honey by R. Rita. If you're into the Invisible Lives of Addie LaRue, I think this is perfect for you. Doesn't have the same toxic relationship that Addie LaRue has, but we are following a girl through time as she's gifted immortality. We have meddling gods, a seriously epic swoony romance which takes place with all of history's major events as its backdrop. We're following Anna, who in the very early Middle Ages is kicked out of her town because she has vitiligo. However, it's the Middle Ages and they don't know that's a thing, and instead think she's cursed or has the plague, so they kick her out of town, and she is doing everything she can while living in the forest trying to survive when she stumbles across a beautiful woman running for her life from the guards. Anna decides to risk her own life to offer sanctuary to this woman, and our woman is very impressed with Anna's endless humility and kindness that she pays her back with the gift of a peach, which happens to grant immortality. And our beautiful woman turns into a beautiful man named Kieran, and he is a trickster god. And it is Anna trying to figure out what the hell is going on, who she is now that she is going to live forever. And it is just swoony, beautiful, and I love these two together. It's the slow burn of slow burns. It's 800 years before they get together, and Anna and Kieran have certainly stolen my heart this year. Next up is Empire of Shadows by Jacqueline Benson, and this is the first book in her Raiders of the Arcane series. And if you also were a massive fan or are a massive fan of The Mummy, Romancing the Stone, Indiana Jones, this is honestly the series for you. We are following Allie, who is a suffragette. It is set in the 1800s, and she has spent her whole life fighting for her education, for her worth, for her job, which is not the job she wants. She wants nothing more than to be an archaeologist, but because of the failings of society, she has landed a very kind of low-level job in the records team. She's unfortunately about to get fired from said job because she chained herself to the gates of Parliament in a suffragette protest, and the company doesn't look fondly on that. However, as she's waiting to be fired by her absolutely useless boss, she discovers a journal and an artifact from a Mesoamerican society, which may hold the clue to a hidden city, think El Dorado, but not. And she ends up on a chase from some serious bad guys across the world to British Honduras, where she is trying to find anyone who is willing to trek her into the jungle to find said city. No one's really biting and thinks she's a bit of a lunatic until enter Adam, who is an American surveyor. The bad guys catch up to them, and she ends up accidentally getting Adam roped in as they're trying to fight through the jungles to find the city and find what the bad guys are looking for before they can destroy this civilization. And it is just so much fun. The adventure in here is, again, it gives me all those Indiana Jones, The Mummies vibes. Allie is the smartest person in any room, and defensive and prickly is her like go-to. And then we have Adam, who is your golden retriever, who honestly is besotted and in awe of Allie and knows that yes, she is the smartest person in the room, except for when it comes to like human survival. And I love their dynamic. Cannot wait for the third book in the series. On the historical bent, still in the 1800s, but very dark, a very dark twist, is The Poisoner by Ivy Ophelia. This book has the toxic, twisted, dark vampire romance of My Little Heart, and I just devoured it from the very opening sentence. We are following Elena. She's returned back to the city after the death of her father, and she is a botanist. She runs an apothecary, and she just, you know, sells little herbal remedies to people. Those in the know are aware that they can go to Elena if they're looking for something to get rid of the odorous men in their lives. And she also uses a local brothel as like her testing grounds for her poisons. So things are going well until she accidentally poisons our man Silas Forbes, who is a conceited playboy. However, he wakes up and is instantly obsessed with her and proceeds to spend most of the novel stalking her and trying to kill her for daring to attempt to kill him. And when she starts fighting back, Slice thinks she's flirting, and they enter into a deal that she will feed Slice, because he is a vampire, if he will let her study him. And it is their dynamic, and yeah, as I said, sick, twisted, dark. Slice towards the end does give me slight golden retriever vibes. He is fully obsessed with her. I mean, if your golden retriever was a pit bull or a cobra or a viper, that's Slice. There is this serpent-like quality to the vampires, which was just so much fun. The twist at the end of this, there was a few. I am just gobsmacked and cannot wait for the next book. So excited. Then last but not least, we have a dark romance entry to the list, and that is The Fallen Gods duet by Gabriella Sanz. Now, Gabriella Sanz is one of my favorite indie authors. I have adored her since she wrote her River Valley Rebels series, which was her Rockstar romance series, which she first published, has since unpublished. But anything this woman writes, I am here for, and this is the spin-off to her Fallen series, which is a dark mafia romance, and we're following Nero. I'm very picky when it comes to mafia romance because I have a interest in the Cosa Nostra and the mafia, just fascinated by this crime organization. So I've done a lot of research, but I'm very picky when it comes to it. But the way Gabriella has structured the mafia, like, I'm convinced that she has some insider knowledge, but it is just flawlessly done. And in this one, we are following Nero. He is on the run. He is been kicked out of New York after his best friend and mafia don fucked up, to put politely, and it's either fake your death or die. So he ends up in this backwater town in middle of America trying to live a new life outside of the mafia, which is really hard for Nero because he grew up in the life. That's all he's ever known. He misses the power and the lifestyle, so he's really struggling to find out who he is in this new town. And then we have Blake, who is a bartender in the local town, and she's kind of the local outcast. Her mother has recently passed away from a terminal disease. I think it's cancer, but I can't remember off the top of my head. And her dad was high up in the local bikie gang, so she's looked down upon by the rest of the town. Her goal is just to finish hiding up her mum's property and then selling it and getting out of Dodge. She wanted to leave the town, but her mother got sick before she could head off to college. She has a very shitty ex-boyfriend who cheated on her and just seems to think that she's gonna fall back with him because he's the, you know, the dreamy son of the mayor and the good kid in town, and like, why wouldn't she stay? And then Nero ends up moving next door. A fire happens, and luckily Nero owns a construction company, so he offers to have Blake live with him, and his business partner will fix up her house so it's ready to sail. However, she needs to pretend to date him because he's been sleeping around, which has been fine except when he slept with the wrong man's wife. So he now needs a reputation redo, and I love this. It is just a beautiful exploration of their relationship. We do get the mafia in it. Obviously it's a mafia romance, and I just love this exploration of morality and Blake dealing with the fact that if she wants to be with Nero, she can't necessarily have such black and white ideas of what's good and bad. It's so good. Please read it. Please read anything Gabriella Sanz writes. No one does mafia romance quite like her, at least what I've read. So there you go. That is my not concise, very rambly, gushy, raving about my top books of 2024. Comment down below and let me know what your favorite book of 2024 is, or you can leave me the firework emoji. A bit late into the new year, but leave the firework emoji. Linked in the description box below will be all these books, along with reviews if they have them, and links to my social media channels if you'd like to talk to me or follow me on any other corner of the internet. If you'd like to see more content from me, please like and subscribe. I'll be posting new videos every Sunday. Anyway, that's all from me today, guys. I hope you're doing all kinds of well, and I will speak to you soon. See ya!